I had the privilege of being invited to speak at a conference. And I spoke at this conference. I was the penultimate speaker, which means there was one speaker after me. And I walked into this conference, and my title was How Malcolm Got It Wrong. And what I spoke about in the speech was, in the book The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, who is without question one of the foremost thinkers of our time, speaks about the 10,000 hours. And it's right? So if you think about the premise of the ideology of the 10,000 hours, Malcolm referenced somebody else's work. So it wasn't his work. He referenced a scientist who'd studied athletes, more specifically gymnasts, tennis players, etc., between the eras of the 1910s and the 1940s. And the scientist tried to answer an interesting question. And the question was this: what does it take to reach the top 1% of any chosen field or industry? So in any chosen field or industry, what does it take to reach the top 1%? Really the peak of the summit. And after almost 3 decades of study, the scientist found that if you committed yourself to 10,000 hours of practice, diligence, commitment, you had a better chance of becoming part of the top 1%. And it makes sense, doesn't it? The greatest soccer players of our time, you hear about stories about how they were playing soccer from when they were yay high. The greatest tennis players of our time, the greatest golf players of our time, you hear stories about how they start the sport at a very young age. They're more committed than their peers, they spend more time doing it, and they therefore become part of the top 1%. The theory of the top 1% is 100% correct. This is why, if you commit yourself to 10,000 hours of diligent practice and study, you have a better chance of reaching the top 1%, because the rules are the same. I wonder if we could extend this to business. My experience, remember I work in private equity, I spend my time looking for companies that are run inefficiently, that we could purchase and run better and exit at a future date, which means I'm essentially looking for organizations that can help me deliver exponential rates of growth. In my analyses of these businesses, I have to ask myself the question: how are they run? And often what we found is they are run on the premise of the 10,000 hours. They've gotten really good at doing this thing because they've spent hours and hours doing it. So, when Malcolm Gladwell said 10,000 hours, he was correct. What he did not tell us is that that rule made a single proviso. The proviso was the set of skills, competencies, and tools you need don't change. If they do, then you might have spent 10,000 hours getting really good at something that's not of value to the consumer. I want you to just take a moment, pause, and think about that. Think about then our very famous case study of Kodak. They got really good at making film, except sooner or later, that's not what consumers wanted. Think about the business of Oxbaron. Got really good at making ox wagons. Sooner or later, that's not what consumers wanted. Think about the business of Smith Corona. Got really good at making typewriters. Sooner or later, that's not what consumers wanted. So we can get really good at doing something. That we're good at it doesn't necessarily mean it's of value. In the new age, and what our research shows us, is that 10,000 hours is important as a premise. But in the modern day, speed is more important than time spent. It doesn't follow that because you've spent 2 decades doing something, an incumbent couldn't beat you having done it for 2 years. All they have to do is learn at a rate faster than you and deliver value at a rate faster than you are. And so in the modern day, speed is critical. Time spent, not as important as it used to be.